Good morning and welcome to week 2 of the New Hampshire High School Football Show right here on News Radio 610 and 96.7. Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley of NHSportsPage.com. First week in the book after last week. We're halfway through this week. We're starting to learn a little bit more about some of these teams and some of the seasons. And there's still a lot of question marks out there, Dave. Both you and I on the scene on the Seacoast last night. One thing we did learn is the temperatures. They shifted dramatically from last Friday night to last night.
Yeah, it's chilly this morning too.
Yeah, definitely fall has arrived, and I have no problems with that. There were 12 games around the state of New Hampshire today. Division III joining the mix. Today, actually, I said 12 games last night, I should say. We're going to run down the scores in just a moment. As I mentioned, both Dave and I were at the Bedford-Portsmouth game on the Seacoast. Portsmouth playing their second game in Division I. Successful last week. Last night, not so much. For the scoreboard from all the games from last night, we'll hit Dave Haley up. Our scoreboard, as always, brought to you by our friends at the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission, the Division of Enforcement, and that Buyers Beware campaign, reminding all adults, do not provide alcohol to children. Just don't do it. Look, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the sports world, especially with the NFL. I mean, what a week for the NFL. So even if you're NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and you're basically almost out of the job, do not go out and buy alcohol to kind of commiserate over it. It's not going to do you any good. It's not going to do anybody any good. It is for sure against the law.
Wow,
I definitely
think that was
just pulled that one out of nowhere.
Longest one you've ever done.
Yeah.
Because I think it's pretty pertinent. I didn't think there was anything worse than seeing Ray Rice knock out his fiance with a punch to the face. Obviously, hitting a woman, touching a woman in any way like that is all. This Adrian Peterson story is worse. You understand that?
It's crazy.
I mean, they're both terrible, but this is a 4-year-old. I mean, and he was whipping the kids. So, had a whooping room, by the way. I have my daughter Allison here today. I've got to be honest with everyone. I don't have a whooping room.
No,
she's a playroom.
So sometimes,
a Barbie room.
Sometimes you probably would like to, but you can restrain yourself.
No, I actually don't ever want to do that. So let's get to last night's game. We'll start the game that we were at last night. I was there for a half because somebody needed to go home early. So
and you show up wearing shorts. And I saw Dave. I walk up the bleachers at Portsmouth, Tom Dobney Field, and I see Dave, and I said, shorts. And I said, let's see how long he's going to last. And then he gives me the excuse about the 7-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
What a crazy made-up excuse. My 7-year-old daughter didn't want to watch Bedford Portsmouth. She didn't care where they are in the power poll. So, yeah, she had to head home. So, Bedford 37-7 over Portsmouth. Mike Valis was all over the field last night. The question is, can they throw the ball? Quite honestly, they didn't really need to last night. They went right up the gut, right up the middle. Portsmouth playing without Mikey Torr, their nose tackle. He's back next week after serving a 2-game suspension to open the season. And Bedford went right up the gut. Kurt Hines and his staff smart enough to just go right at their weakness. And Portsmouth couldn't stop them. I mean, whether it was 4 yards, 6 yards, or 12 yards, they just went up the middle all day long. And a very convincing 37-7 win for Bedford. We'll talk more about them, but that's an elite defense. And when they get Tommy O'Rourke back, they're going to be tremendous. Exeter wins 14-7 over the Spalding Fighting McIsaacs over at Bill Ball Field last night. Exeter moves to 2-0. Spalding 0-2. Feels like Spalding's always 0-2, and then all of a sudden you look up and they're 5-3 a few weeks later. But good win there. Seacoast rivalry. That's a conference game there. Concord with a 33-21 win over Winnicott last night. Leo Sadeh had a big run for Concord. Robbie Law touchdown pass, and the defending champions moved to 2-0. This might have surprised some people. The lopsidedness, I'm going to make up words, may have surprised some. It definitely surprised me. But Memorial 33, Manchester Memorial 34, Manchester Central 8. We, Pete Terry, may be seeing 2 new teams in the Turkey Bowl this year.
Yeah,
I think Trinity will probably be
Remember last week when we were previewing that Trinity West game, I said Turkey Bowl preview? And you were like, no, I don't think so. But it very well could be Trinity against Memorial.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think it would be a bad thing. I mean, I like Manchester Central. I love Ryan Ray, great coach, I think. I think the cupboard's a little bare over there.
Yeah, their offense is not good
Certainly
at all.
Seems that way.
No, their offense isn't good. I mean, they lost a lot, and they haven't replaced it. So, Londonderry, one of my favorite teams, with a 35-14 win over Timberlane last night. So they roll on. Another nice win. They moved to 2-0. Timberlane falls to 0-2. Pinkerton 29-7 over South. We wondered if South was going to respond after last week's big loss to Salem that Pete Terrier covered. I don't know if they responded or not. If Pinkerton's that good, we'll find that out in the coming weeks. But TJ Urbanek had 2 touchdowns in that win, and Pinkerton moves to 2-0, and in my opinion, probably right now is the best team in the state. Salem rolls again, 40-0 over Keene. Keene, as we talked about last week, and as I wrote about in my previews, is very young. It's struggling to score. They got a new quarterback, Dallas Landry, but Salem is the story. Much improved team over there under Coach Pike, who's doing a great job over there, and they moved to 2-0. Nice to see Salem. Nice to see Salem back again. You know, they really kind of got hit by the Wyndham school and so forth, and nice to see them. When I first started this site, they were the teams who win the championship. Moving on to Division II, Hanover with a closer than expected 10-7 overtime win over Kingswood last night, and they're over. Jack Cavallero, remember that name. He's a real good player for Hanover. Merrimack Valley in the afternoon with a 42-0 win at West. It was a doubleheader at Gill yesterday, and this was the first one. So Merrimack Valley, after losing to Kennedy at home, goes on the road, beats West. West is a depleted kind of team.
West doesn't play at Gill. West plays at West.
Oh, they played at West? I thought they played at Gill, somebody told me.
I don't know if they played at Gill.
Oh, then you're probably right. But no, I thought they had played at, somebody told me. But, okay, they played at West. 42-0 Merrimack. Wherever they played, Merrimack Valley won 42-0. Yeah. Kennett moves to 2-0, 38-21 over Kearsarge. Will Pollard had 2 touchdowns running and 2 passing. Kearsarge much improved under Zach Matthews over there. But Kennett moves to 2-0. They were my pick to win that division over Plymouth, so we'll see. They moved to 2-0. Hollis Brookline with the surprise of the night, I thought.
Man.
13-7 over Milford on the road.
Yeah.
And very surprised that they beat Milford last night. But
especially after Hollis Brookline got wiped off the floor.
Wiped off them.
56-0.
By Pelham.
No.
Who's not.
Hollis Brookline last week lost to Wyndham 56-0.
Oh, Hollis Brookline did?
Conval
it's Pelham. Oh, Conval. You're right. You're
week.
right. Boy, Wyndham might be really good.
Yeah.
We'll find out today. That's Steve Burns' issue, not ours right
Aren't
now.
we going to be in, well, not in Milford, but in Amherst next Friday for Souhegan Milford?
I think we might be.
Is that where we're bringing the,
we may have
video
to,
camera?
We have to huddle on that, but yeah.
Regroup after Milford.
We may have to regroup.
After Coach Jones' team lays it.
I love Coach Jones. It's one of my favorites, but we'll talk about it. And the final score last night, John Stark Generals moved to 1-1. Drew McCory, again, I talked about him. Big quarterback, sophomore, 28, Conval 17. Cooper Gorski is their young wide receiver, and I think they got a running back by the name of Adam King who's done a real nice job for them, too. So nice win there for Coach Rourke. We're happy for them.
I was watching Friday Night Football, FNF, on WMUR TV last night. Jason King doing it. And Jamie, we saw at the Portsmouth game.
He was definitely
night.
there for 15 minutes.
I saw Jamie there, and they do a great job. It's their 20th year of Friday Night Football on Channel 9. And I actually saw some video of this kid, McQuarrie, from John Stark.
Yeah.
He is a big dude.
Yeah, he's 6'2".
Strong.
Yeah, 200.
He's 6'4", 2-something, and he's got some skill. I saw a couple of highlights of him. He looks pretty good. Today, there's a lot of games. I mentioned earlier, Division III gets into it. Your Guilford Golden Eagles taking on Franklin this afternoon.
Did you see who I picked him to win that division?
Well, hey, I'm not surprised, Dave. I'm not surprised one bit. Some other D3 games, Fall Mountain at Interlakes Moultonboro. You got Mascoma at Newport, Stevens at Newfound, Brady at Epping Newmarket. Campbell at Bow should be an interesting one. Raymond at Winnisquam. In D2, there's actually a D3 game tomorrow night, right? Justin McIsaac was telling us he's covering it on WPSN.
Yeah, Somersworth.
Farmington Newt at Somersworth.
That's going to be one side.
I think Farmington Newt is playing all their games on the road this year. I think
are.
they're getting their field repaired. So that's your Division III kickoff. They're only playing 8 games in D3. They didn't play last week. D2, St. Thomas at Pembroke, Lebanon at Plymouth. The Chris Sanborn era begins today.
That's right.
Trinity at Wyndham, that's a good one. We'll have Coach Bill Raycraft on from the Jaguars at 8:30, 8:35 this morning. And then some D1 games, a lot of D1 games. Dover at Goffstown. And then you got a doubleheader at Stello Stadium. Double admission, though. Split admission, I should say.
It's not like a double.
No, you don't get to pay one
feature
price
at the drive-in?
and get two. No, it's North hosting Alvern at 1. And then I think an interesting matchup, Merrimack at BG. Does Merrimack have what it takes to knock off a team that maybe people would look at and say, hey, Bishop Girton gets the advantage in this one? I think Merrimack's going to win that game. That's a 7 o'clock game at Stella. So that rounds out your schedule. Your scoreboard, as we said, brought to you by our friends at New Hampshire State Liquor Commission, Division of Enforcement, and the Buyers Beware campaign, reminding the adults, don't buy alcohol for minors. Dave, we'll take a timeout, come back, and we'll talk about the game that we were at. That's Portsmouth and Bedford. Boy, did Bedford look impressive. And then about 8:35, we'll bring on Bill Raycraft, head coach of the Wyndham Jaguars. He will join us on the program. We got Jen Chick in the house filming the thing for nhsportspage.com. Jen, we're going to have to get you involved with this, get you on the front of the camera at some point so people can see what Jen Chick is all about. Our new producer, Jeremy Mahaney, is in the house. Dave's daughter, Allison, with us as well. She snuck into the video last night from Portsmouth. So when you check out that on the website, you can see Dave's cute 7-year-old daughter as well. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7. Welcome back. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7. I am Pete Terrier.
It feels like
he's Dave Haley.
It feels like it's very serious when we come back and there's no like music or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
I
I feel
know.
like there's like something is happening. Like we have to announce something.
You know what that means? Go.
The water bubbler is falling on Pete and he can't get up. It's an emergency.
You are on. Well, certainly the Mike Bayless show was on display last night out in Portsmouth as Bedford went out to Portsmouth and took on their former rivals from Division III, a team that whooped them pretty good in the championship game, 2012 I think it was. Bedford has definitely been a program on the rise. I think Portsmouth's been very good all along as well.
Oh, yeah.
They entered D1 with a win last week on the road against Spalding, a Spalding team that only lost to Exeter by a 14-7 count last night. But I think Mike Bayless and Bedford, that offensive line, the defense as well.
Defense is elite.
Just too much for the Portsmouth Clippers. They did not move the ball at all. I don't even think they had 100 yards on the ground. I was reading Mike Z's story from the Portsmouth Herald, seacoastonline.com, and they had Bedford at over 300-something yards of offense, and Portsmouth, I think, 93 yards of total
Which,
offense.
I mean, and that's Portsmouth's an offensive juggernaut. That's what they're known for. Now, when you get Mike Torr back next week, that makes a huge difference.
If you get him back, because after the game I talked to Coach Pafford, and he said they hope to get him back, but it's all based on progress reports.
Oh, okay.
Depending on
when
so it's
those not a done deal.
in,
Okay.
Yeah. And what he did say was he's eligible according to state standards, but Portsmouth has higher standards than the state,
Yeah.
the minimum standards. So they hope to get him back, but it's not a sure thing just yet.
Okay. If they get him back, or when eventually they get him back, hopefully it's next week. Mike's a nice kid. We'd like to see him out there. He's fun to watch. That gives them a different element. They can really pound the ball up the middle. They have nobody to pound the ball up the middle with. Joey Ozier is a fast kid, really good player, but he's not he's not a run through the tackles guy. He's a guy you want to spread out. They're a young team. Christian Pete had an interception last night, and I think he had a big catch for them, and he's a sophomore. Ozier's an underclassman. They're a young team. Boy, DeCesare throws a nice ball. Felt bad for him on the first interception. He threw the ball right in someone's hands, and it bounced off his teammate's hands right into Mike Bayless's hands for an interception in Bedford. I mean, and that's a tough way to start the game. You rifle one right in somebody's hands, but high school receivers, sometimes they have trouble holding on.
And what did you think of Colin Cashin? Bedford doesn't get a lot of love for the running game. Colin Cashin carried it 21 times for over 100 yards last night. Bayless was well over 100 yards. A lot of that was improvisational stuff for Bayless. I mean, I can't wait to see the video highlight package of it because he was just weaving through the entire defense. The 46-yard interception return for a touchdown that made it 14-0 midway through the second was very, very impressive. He had a 15-yard touchdown run, a 9-yard touchdown run. He also threw a 16-yard touchdown pass to Nick Leahy. Bedford had a safety, late in the game, midway through the fourth quarter, to make it 37-7, which was the final. I don't think the defense gets enough credit, and Tommy O'Rourke has not suited up yet this year, number 52. He's one of the captains, one of their best players, has not even played as part of this Bedford defense as of yet. No,
broken jaw, and they hope to get him back. It's sort of, when you do that 2 to 4 weeks and so forth, it means you're not really, it really depends on, how it heals. And so they can afford right now to, they're winning without him. But that's an elite defense. I mean, that you know it when you see it, and that's a very, very, very good Bedford defense. And they control the ball on the ground. they feel like they can throw the ball, but we'll see. I mean, I don't think anything last night showed me that Velas is a throwing. As a guy who can really throw well, but he's a tremendous football player all around. He can certainly run. Yeah, they're going to be right in this thing. I mean, they're in Concord's conference, and they're right there with them. I mean, when I was doing my picks at the beginning of the season, I think I'd written down I had them going all the way to the Final Four, maybe even the final. They're going to be very good.
I don't know if Jen can kind of zero in on this, but this is, to me, the difference between Bedford and most of the other teams. I got the Portsmouth roster right here. It's basically one page long. I don't know how many kids are on it. But Portsmouth, you wouldn't say that they have a small roster. I mean, they're not real deep, but look at the Bedford roster. I mean, I had to, kind of cut and paste 3. They got nearly 100 kids on the roster.
He has 140 in the program altogether. 140.
I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
They've got the depth.
Yeah.
And
that's
it
huge.
showed.
Yeah. And that's what Brian Pafford said to me in the preseason about Portsmouth. He said, yeah, this position's okay. He goes, but we have several positions where if a guy gets hurt, and kids always get hurt, they get banged up, then there's no one behind them with any experience. And so Bedford, the bigger schools like Bedford, Portsmouth, Pinkerton, Concord, that's where you see the difference here. And that's where Portsmouth moving up to the bigger division, that's what it is. You've got to stay healthy because you don't have the depth other teams do now. I mean, when they were in a division with Plymouth and Wyndham and Trinity, they were all in the same boat. Now they're not. I mean, that's what being the smallest school is. It's all about depth.
And depth.
Or depth.
Depth allows you to overcome an injury such as Bedford sustained in practice this week. Mike Collins broke his leg in practice, and he was one of the leading running backs for Bedford. They were able to overcome that because they had a kid like Colin Cashin, and they've got some other kids who can carry the football as well. And they got a quarterback as talented as Mike Velas who can carry the load of that running game as well. So that's going to separate you from the haves and the have-nots, so to speak. Just looking around the scoreboard at some other games, that Concord, another dogfight on the road in Hampton against Winnicott. Winnicott actually took a 21-20 lead late in that football game, or in the fourth quarter, but Concord scoring a couple of touchdowns late. They ended up winning it by 12. Last week he talked about that Pinkerton 63-20, not as close as the final score indicated, while the 33-21 not as widespread a margin as that final score indicates with that one.
Yeah, I think South's got a lot of soul searching to do, I think, at this point, right? I mean,
with losing 29-7 against Pinkerton. I don't know. I mean, I think there is some soul searching.
And 35-14 against Salem?
Right. I think that's the bigger head scratcher.
Well, I'm saying the two of them combined. I'm not saying just last night.
Well, I think the good news for them is the schedule eases up.
Right, but they're a team that thought that they were going to be in the and they still might, but they're championship driven. They're not, hey, let's try to make the playoffs this year. They're, we feel like we can contend for a title, and they just got whooped 2 weeks in a row by Salem and Pinkerton. I mean, and Pinkerton at home, and what if that game's in Derry? It's probably another touchdown or 10 points in the other direction. So, they've got to, as I wrote about in the Thursday Thoughts this week, they're a veteran crew as far as that coaching staff, which is excellent, and the kids who have all, a lot of juniors, a lot of seniors who have played a lot of minutes there. So they get it, but they've got to rally here because they haven't been competitive in 2 games. They're not competitive.
What do you make of Exeter? 17-0 shutout of Manchester Central last week. Then we see Central get blitzed by Manchester Memorial last night. Winnicott games coming up in 2 weeks. They've got Goffstown next week. They really struggled against Spalding to win 14-7 last night. Exeter. This isn't an Exeter team that we saw a couple, 2-3 years ago. No.
They're, they've got their staple of, they've got Neil Vorster.
They got the depth, just like Bedford.
They got the depth, and they've got a good offensive line. That division, that conference, I keep calling it division, that conference is not particularly strong. That's why, I think Portsmouth's going to come out of it. Exeter isn't what they were a few years ago. Spalding lost a lot of kids, too. They lost Craig on defense and Trey Scott on offense. Exeter's become sort of one-dimensional in a league in a state now where a lot of teams are able to throw the ball. And I talked to a lot of coaches about Exeter in the preseason. They said they can't throw the ball, and that's, when they get down by 2 scores. I saw that with BG last week when they had to throw against Londonderry. It was over because they can't throw the ball very well. So they're a team that if they can get a lead and go, they're fine. Central's not good right now. They're just not good. 34-8 against Memorial.
Yeah.
And Memorial doesn't play very good. It doesn't have the depth defensively, but they were able to hold Maple. Great. Shout out to Peter Colcord, the coach of Memorial. It's a very nice win. I'm sure he had a lot of fun last night. He celebrated someplace. And
using Isaac Velez as a quarterback, mixing him in at quarterback.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
See, I didn't get to see it this morning.
He was in running the football out of that quarterback position. He did throw some too.
The Wildcat?
Well. Yeah. So we'll get into Division II as we come out of the next break. We're going to have Bill Raycraft from Wyndham, big one against Trinity. Trinity's knocked them out of the playoffs each of the last couple of years. That's a good rivalry.
Wyndham blew them out last year, and then Trinity came back and beat them in the playoffs.
And blew them out, returning the favor in the playoffs.
Right.
So we'll talk to Coach Raycraft. I'm very high on the Jaguars, as a lot of people are around the state of New Hampshire. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show. Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley of NHSportsPage.com. It's on News Radio 610 and 96.7. From Wyndham, Trinity, Wyndham. Should be a fun game this afternoon. I like Wyndham. I think this is a different Trinity team. I don't think that they're a doormat by any stretch. They still got some talented players. Saiku Ba had a big game last week. Baldwin is still there, Ryan Baldwin. But I just see Wyndham in this game.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good test for Trinity to see where they stack up. And if they lose today, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think it's more about how their level of compete, as they say. And wrote about this week. Steve Burns, is obviously a friend of mine, was very frustrated with that group after they played Salem in the Jamboree because he didn't feel like they competed. And how they go over there today, and if they get down a couple of scores early, and how they react to that, I think that's the biggest part of them. I don't expect them to win. If they win, it's tremendous. But I think it's more about this new Trinity team needs to kind of get an identity, and games like this, you find one.
We'll take a break, come back, one final segment. We'll go around the state. We'll look at some of the other games on tap for today. I got to get you can scoff at my power poll ballot. We'll talk a little bit about that. I don't know what I'm going to do, especially with my Nashua South Panthers. They're 0-2. I still feel like they're a top 10 team, but do they deserve my power poll vote after the first 2 weeks when they got blanked 2 weeks in a row by Salem and then Pinkerton?
Oh, is that a rhetorical question?
High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Horrible music here.
$8.50 on your Saturday, Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley, NHSportsPage.com. And if you were on the website yesterday, you might have noticed that for some reason the Guilford Golden Eagles got the prime spot, nice photo credit and everything right in that game story, the Crosstown Motors Division III football preview written by a Guilford alum. What do you know, Dave Haley?
Hey, facts. That's what I deal in here.
Well, they open up their season along with the rest of Division III this afternoon. Going to be playing against Franklin. Now, Franklin was winless last year in the first year post Greg Husband. And Guilford, you really like them this year, don't you?
Yeah, they got 14 seniors. Max Triano is a kid who's going to put up a lot of yardage for them. David McDonald's another kid, a linebacker and a fullback for them. And they've got a good receiving core. They have a lot of playmakers, and their line should be good enough. Mike Medore is a kid who anchors that line. So Sean Garrett's taken over there. He was a coordinator over there. I believe he was the offensive coordinator last year. Of course, they lost Jack Athanas, but they've got Carter Mercer stepping in at quarterback, and they'll be good. I think they're going to win that. Stevens is incredibly young over there. Paul Silva has got a loaded team for the future because he's got a ton of sophomores who start and are big-time players over there. Richard Bell at running back is a sophomore. Parker Smith, you may have heard his name. He's a basketball player. He's a sophomore. He's a tight end. So they'll come on as the year goes through, and then they're a team. Stevens is the team of the future over there, but they're in the north-south now. They're not in the conferences. I don't know why. I can't stick to the conferences. But Franklin will be pretty good. Patch Kaplan is Coach Kaplan, Jeff Kaplan's son, and his other son plays at UNH. And this kid, Patch, is offensive guard, defensive tackle. He's just as good. He's a monster. So the South Division is a lot better. I picked Somersworth to win that. Elijah DeJoy is big-time running back for them. Hunter Kretschmar on the line. They've got a new quarterback who came in from Georgia who moved in, Hakeem Pone. Campbell's going to be really good again. Kyle Manning has stepped over from the wide receiver spot to become a quarterback over there. Greg Gross does a great job. Tyler Walton, and Harrison Vedrani. Remember Harrison Vedrani, is a basketball guy for Campbell. They had 4 basketball players come out.
I call him Ogre. Remember from, what was it, Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah.
The big dude, jock, just a big man-child. That's Harrison Vedrani.
Yeah, he's a big kid. Like, he's got a
no
good
offense,
future.
Harrison.
No, he has no idea what the Revenge of the Nerds is, but he'll Google it. And, Bo's got Matt Enrenberg, who was our player of the year, back at running back. They lost a lot around him, but they've got, Chris Robbins, Kyle Barrington. And then Winnisquam's got the Serrano brothers, Christian and Andrew. Christian is one of the best basketball players in Division III. His brother, Andrew, is one of the best football players, and Christian's right about there. So, it's going to be fun. Epping Newmarket's going to be pretty solid as well, but I like the way that they broke it into a South and a North. I think that makes it a little easier.
So they only play 8 games. D2 only plays 8 games, but they've got a bye. D2 started last week, and they've got buys. Like Laconia was on a bye this week in Division 2. Looking at some of the other games for today, we've talked about that Trinity Wyndham game. How about this Lebanon at Plymouth game? Not so much about that particular matchup, but about what that means. A new era in Plymouth Bobcat football begins today. Yeah,
they lost their best lineman at the beginning of the season with a broken foot, so that's big. It's a new crew. They we sat there at the Chad game and talked about Reisert and Jared Cool and Colin Sullivan and all these kids, John Thomas, all these kids we had covered for years. Those guys are gone. So Coach Lenahan is many things. One of them's not dumb. He left when he knew that he had his best team. That's what smart coaches do. A lot of times you see these coaches. You saw Mike Bellevue when he left Sauhegan. Well, the cupboard was Mike Heaney when he at basketball left. So they lost a lot of kids.
Jack Gaddy in Salem.
Sure. When these guys decide to leave, trust me, they know what they're doing. They're very smart men. And it was time to go, but he felt, and also, the cupboard was not bare, but I mean, this is a whole new team, and Coach Sanborn, who I've gotten to know really well over the offseason, I got to tell you, he's one of my favorite guys out there. He's tremendous.
Well, he played at Plymouth.
Yeah.
He was on the staff for a bunch of years with Lenahan.
He's
a Plymouth guy, and you needed a Plymouth guy to take over that
He's wholly capable. I think
How much pressure is on him, though?
I don't know. There shouldn't be. Honestly, I think the program's in great hands with him for the long-term future. I think he's a guy who could be there 20 years. But, they lost a lot this year, so if they lose a couple of games, he was talking to me about the year that they came up in a division, the year Lebanon ended up winning the title, I think it was.
Yep.
I think they played Trinity. I'm sorry if I'm getting...
I was at the game against Trinity, and Trinity blitzed them. They came, and it looked like Plymouth wasn't ready to play under the big lights in the big city.
Thank you. He talked specifically about that game and said, we moved up, and all the attention's on Plymouth. He goes, we knew we didn't have a team. We knew we were way too young.
I think they were 6-4 that year.
Yeah, exactly. Bad. For Plymouth, that's like, you know what I mean? That's like Alabama going 6-4. So he told me, he said, we went into that game, and he goes, we as a coach staff were like, yeah, we're not good. But they're Plymouth, so when Trinity's beating them, they're like, oh, Plymouth, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, this isn't the same Plymouth team we were last year, and we're going to be again. Obviously, as you saw, they built on that class. I talked about Stevens with all those sophomores. Wait till those kids are seniors. They'll be killing people. And so they built on that class, and they got better. So I'm not saying they're the same kind of team as that. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, he probably doesn't know yet. But they're not the team of last year. So they're not, I saw in the power poll, and I always have to make a comment on the power. Here's the problem with the power poll. Half these guys don't even watch high school football, but they vote every week. I think it's adorable, but they don't even watch high school football. But anyway, back to this. Plymouth was in the top 10. It's just name only. Oh, their name's Plymouth, so I'll throw them in the top 10. No, they're not a top 10 team. They're not a top 20 team in the state.
I put them in the top 10.
They're not.
I'll give you my top 10.
I talked to the coach for 45 minutes. They're not.
I'll give you my top 10 quickly as I'm trying to bring it up here. You got
You're
a problem with
brave, man.
me having Pinkerton at number 1?
Oh, no, don't go
What
with the
about
problem with
Concord
me.
at number 2? How about Bedford at number 3? Exeter at number 4? I might have moved them down. Salem at number 5? I didn't have them in my preseason pool. I put them
You
at
had them
5.
after they won the opener.
All right, Wyndham I got 6. I got Nashua South at 7. Londonderry 8. Portsmouth 9. Plymouth 10. I can see Portsmouth dropping out. I can see Londonderry maybe moving up. South moving down. Plymouth we'll find out today. I think I got it pretty good. And I watch a lot of high school football, you know that. You're not coming after me.
No.
Okay.
You think I was talking to you? No. No. Is how many people are on the poll board? How many people vote?
6.
Okay. Pete Terrier, you don't have anything to worry about.
Hey, you got a nice little website, Dave. Why don't you do rankings or something? Why don't you throw some rankings
I
up
do.
there?
We do statistics and the records and so forth, you know, at the end of the year, whatever. But anyway, so Plymouth is not a top 10 team, but, you know, I expect them to be a nice factor in that division.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank Bill Raycraft from Wyndham for coming on the program with us. We'll figure out where we're going to bring the nhsportspage.com video cameras next week. We had tentatively scheduled Milford-Sauhegan. We'll see about that. I want to thank Jen Chick for coming in and filming this thing. We look forward to that highlight package from Bedford and Portsmouth up on the website. Is it up, you're saying? It is up. So go check it out, nhsportspage.com. Watch the Mike Bayless show. It's been fun. Week 2 of the New Hampshire High School football season. News Radio 610 and 96.7 for Dave Haley. I'm Pete Terrier. We will talk to you next Saturday.
Go Irish!